America is deeply divided. There are only two sides to every issue, and there is no interest in finding common ground, not even with members of your own family. But as the 2024 presidential election looms on the horizon, there has never been a more important time to have the necessary conversation.
Welcome to the Necessary Conversation. I'm Chad Kultgen. With me is my sister Helene, my mom and dad, Bob and Mary Lou, and today we have our very first guest on the program, Jamie Miller. Jamie is a former executive director of the Republican Party of Florida, now the owner and operator of the Reasonable Arguments blog, which has conservative commentary about Florida and national politics. So he is on your side, Mom and Dad.
Awesome. Yay.
Is that fair to say,
one fan at least?
Welcome.
Well, thank you for joining us. You are the first guest. I thought it'd be fun.
I'll welcome you after I see what comes out of your mouth.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. I thought it would be good to kind of go through a few questions with you just so that everybody watching this or listening to this can kind of understand who you are, where you're coming from. So you reached out to me to come onto this show. So I assume you have heard our show before?
I am familiar with it. I kind of go on and search for different podcasts. I'm on podcasts. I actually have one in Australia later today. So
oh wow,
yeah.
Wow.
So I do it kind of. I don't know if it's for fun or laziness that I don't create my own podcast, but
right. All right, fair enough.
But I do it for fun.
So you're a Republican.
I am,
and you have been your entire life?
No. I grew up in a rural community in Florida, and it was about 90% Democrat. And all elections in Florida have primaries, and we still have a fairly closed primary system. But then certainly in rural communities, all local races were decided in the Democratic primary.
Is it still there?
Hang on one second.
It is still there. It is where the villages are located now, if you're familiar with the villages.
No.
Mom and Dad, you have to turn your TV off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God.
That's every week.
We got all excited. We have a guest.
So you turn the TV up loud enough.
In the meantime, the villages that is the largest retirement community in America, located in Central Florida, outside of Orlando.
Well, I mean, from the hurricane.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
I wasn't paying attention. I was turning the TV down.
Sorry.
It never goes off. It's stuck on Newsmax.
Okay. Let him talk.
Jesus Christ. So did you vote for Trump both times?
Yes.
Okay, so Trump supporter. Do you consider yourself MAGA?
No. It's kind of funny how the Republican Party is kind of situated. I probably consider myself more of what it seems to be becoming a heritage Republican. Okay. I've been involved with the Republican Party a long time. I certainly support Donald Trump. I was along the lines with a lot of people a year ago who felt like both Biden and Trump were maybe it was time to pass the baton to a younger generation. So I was in the minority. My political belief is conducting the will of the majority while protecting the rights of the minority. And so I had my vote and I lost. And I voted for Trump in this primary because by the time it came to Florida, it was time. But, I was an advocate for more voices at the table.
Okay. So you say you voted for Trump and you lost. You accept the outcome of the last election?
There's no question that, we can talk about what it takes to have free, fair, and transparent elections. I don't know that there's much gained by rehashing what may or may not have happened in 2020.
All right. Interesting. So there at least is one point where you diverge from my parents in beliefs. They believe the election was definitely stolen, that Trump won it, and there were some kind of nefarious, malicious activities that went on behind the scenes to steal this for Biden. Let me ask you this.
One fact about me,
sorry.
just that we're on that point. I was director of field operations during the 2000 election. Okay. Where George W. Bush won Florida by 537 votes out of 6 million cast. And so I've seen very close elections. People forget that there were 5 other states that year that were separated by about 23,000 votes. Close elections aren't abnormal in our country. Truman won in 1948. There were about 5 states separated by about 22,000 votes.
Wow.
So we've gone through this before, where a handful of states or half a dozen states are very close, and as a general rule, one candidate or the other tends to get the motivation and get most of those states and then win the election. Florida was kind of an outlier where 4 or 5 of those states went to Gore and Florida went to Bush. 2020 you could call as an outlier, as those states went to Biden, and I think a couple of them, North Carolina, kind of went to Trump, but it wasn't quite enough.
All right. Let me ask you one final question. What has been the biggest surprise for you in terms of things that have happened in American politics in your life?
It's historic that Democrats would put forth a nominee without voting on her in any way, shape, or form.
You hear that?
That is something that is completely abnormal to our system, and is, I think, a horrible precedent that the Democratic Party has set. I thought that they would at least go to their convention and have a free, fair, and transparent election there. They chose not to.
Right.
And you can see, I'm going to agree with your parents on some of the things that are happening now. The Department of Justice is suing Alabama to keep illegal immigrants on voter rolls. They sued and won in the Arizona Supreme Court to keep about 80,000 illegal immigrants on voter rolls. And
Really?
we're somehow called crazy because we call that fraud, and it is fraud. If you're allowing non-Americans to vote, it's fraud. And so we may differ on some of the ways that fraud may or may not have occurred in 2020, but certainly the governor of Pennsylvania committed fraud when he sent out mail-in ballots to every single voter against state law in Pennsylvania. So certainly fraud occurred in the 2020 election. Was it stolen? It's hard to say. But I do say that election fraud is the one crime that if you get away with it, the evidence is erased. And by that, I mean, if you cast an illegal ballot, once that ballot is counted, you're never going to take that ballot out of the voted pile. Never.
Right.
And so once that ballot is counted, it's a vote forever. So we need to separate the conversation from illegal ballots to legal votes, right? And so we need to ensure that illegal ballots are not cast.
Okay.
So how do we do that for this year? How do we do that this year then?
Well, it's tough for this year. I advocate to live stream everywhere ballots are stored, distributed, voted, collected, counted, and canvassed. And so I don't know that we're going to get that done this year, but I think that is kind of what we need to strive for, because we have a responsibility to our fellow Americans, our children, our grandchildren. We have a responsibility to the entire world.
Yes.
That the person who is sitting in the White House is there through a free, fair, and transparent process. And I don't know that we had a free, fair, and transparent process in 2020. Was it stolen? I still have a hard time believing that, you have 20,000 votes of margin in Wisconsin, which was kind of the linchpin for it to, quote, be stolen and to have made a difference. But did fraud occur? Certainly it occurred. And it occurred at the highest levels. When you start talking about a governor of Pennsylvania committing election fraud under an emergency order.
Well,
Can I ask one more question? He's got so much information. I love it. What about, you had said Arizona this year with the 80,000 illegals? That's already been, you're okay, you can vote this year?
Well, they're not. The Arizona U.S. Supreme Court said those 80,000 people cannot be removed from the rolls. So
which means
they are registered voters. There was some thought that they were identified as illegal immigrants and should not be allowed to vote. I always argue, let's not talk about illegal immigrants. I live in Sarasota, Florida. We're a big tourist destination. Why don't we allow tourists to fly here and vote?
Oh,
like if we're going to allow illegal immigrants to vote, why don't we allow Germans to fly here and vote?
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so we don't. We're never going to allow that because it's ridiculous.
Let me ask all of you a question regarding this. We haven't even gotten to our first topic yet, but I'm curious about this.
That's all right.
This idea that illegal immigrants are allowed to vote in these elections illegally, and this is part, voter fraud, et cetera, et cetera. Why do you think all of the illegal immigrants are going to vote Democrat? Wouldn't some of them vote for Trump? Like, why are you afraid of another voting bloc coming into the voting system, even if it's real? And I'm not saying it is.
Long term, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid because I think that people who are coming here are coming to live the American way of life, and there's only one political party that stands for the American way of life, and that's the Republican Party. And so, so long term, I'm not. Short term, the people who are coming here need money, and they're going to vote to get money. And that is the Democratic Party. And so that is the short-term negative impact.
Okay.
From a more philosophical standpoint, it's not what our system is based upon. Our system's based upon one American voter gets one American vote. Right. And it's not based upon, if you just happen to be in the country, the day there's an election, you get to vote. That makes no sense. And I go back to my tourist analogy.
Of course.
Where, of course, we're not going to let Canadians cross the border the day of the election and vote. Like, that makes no sense. So why would we allow somebody from Venezuela or,
of course,
Mexico or any other country?
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that we should allow it. There's in my head a theoretical question to be asked, which is why would you care so much if Trump is the nominee or the Republican Party is the best party? Shouldn't anyone be able to see that? But let's move on.
We have to get to our topics. There's some things that are clearly right and wrong, and that's wrong.
Right. All right.
You're also, Chad, assuming that illegal aliens are smart enough to know the difference.
All right, here we go. Here we go.
So, and they aren't.
Stop it.
All right. So the format of our show.
Look at the two of you.
What?
You're not smart enough to see what you're voting for.
Me and Haley, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for the insult, Dad. Wouldn't be a Sunday without it. So now the format of the show, Jamie, if you're not familiar, is we go through 4 topics that are political, that are, national news, sometimes global news, and we ask a few questions. I read some data. We talk about it. We ask some questions, see where everybody is on each side of the issue. The first one is Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene, a Category 4 storm, made landfall this Thursday as the strongest hurricane on record to hit Florida's Big Bend region. It continued to wreak havoc through multiple states, killing at least 64 people, knocking out power to millions, and trapping families in floodwaters. Deaths have been reported in South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and Virginia. Hundreds of people are still missing, and over 400 roads have been closed as a result of damage. Scientific research shows that climate change is making hurricanes like Helene more intense. Helene comes roughly 2.5 months after Hurricane Beryl, which peaked as a Category 5 storm, tracking destruction across the Caribbean, as well as the United States, killing dozens of people. The proportion of hurricanes that fall into these more intense categories of 4 and 5 are expected to increase as the planet heats up, according to the most recent report from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, a well-respected climate science authority from the United Nations. Peak hurricane wind speeds are also expected to rise, causing more destruction. Noting the increase in wind speeds of recent hurricanes earlier this year, scientists suggested adding a Category 6 to the hurricane wind scale, saying that the currently used categories 1 through 5 are inadequate as hurricanes continue to intensify. In addition to making hurricanes overall more intense, climate change is also causing hurricanes to intensify more quickly, potentially giving people less time to prepare. For example, Hurricane Helene went from Category 1 to Category 4 in less than 24 hours, which is abnormally fast. I'm going to go Haley first. Do you think climate change has anything to do with the increase in number and intensity of these storms?
100%. So we travel a lot, and we went to Iceland a couple years ago.
Heard of it.
And this is a country that 100% relies on glacial runoff as their water source. We went on this, there was like a 7-mile trek up a fucking glacier, and they showed us at the beginning. Yeah, I know. That was my flex. Anyway, we did this trek up this fucking glacier, and our tour guide was this young woman. I forget what her major was, but most of the people that work in Iceland are in the tourism industry in some capacity, and they literally make it part of their mission to let you know about climate change and how it's affecting their country. So we saw They have markers from where the glacier was 100 years ago, the glacier 50 years ago, the glacier 20 years ago. It is rapidly receding. And they told us, like, within the next 50, 60 years, Iceland is fucked. They will have no more water. It is melting at like rapid rates. So we've seen all these things in several countries that we've been to. It is very fucking real. People that live in these countries who believe in climate change, they are being affected by it today, right now. So
can I
absolutely.
ask a question while you're rambling?
Yeah. Let me ask another question. Where did Mom go?
If it's she had to go get Kitty a drink of water.
Jamie, Kitty is their dog, and the dog takes all precedence over anything we do on this show every Sunday.
As it should. As it should.
Yeah.
Anyway, Haley, you're talking about climate change affecting the world. Do you know who the two most rabid violators of the environment are?
Let's hear it.
Russia and China.
Okay.
And India.
Okay.
So what's the United States cleaning up its air going to do to the world's climate?
That wasn't the question, Dad. That's not the
Zero.
question. The question.
But she's going on and on about how this thing's going down. We don't have any control over it.
Okay.
And by the way,
well,
you were going to
that's not necessarily true. Hang on.
To Iceland.
Hang on. I want to go
Remember
to
that?
Jamie next. Dad, hang on. Jamie, do you think climate change has anything to do with the increase in the severity and number of these storms?
Yeah, I always say there's 360 degrees of viewing an elephant, right? And so you're going to get a different description from somebody who's viewing the trunk than somebody who's viewing the tail.
Sure.
And so certainly the climate has always changed, right? The climate, there were dinosaurs, I think we all agree. And they're not.
I don't know, Mom and Dad, do you agree?
That was some level of climate change. I don't know if they lived or not. I know their bones are here, right?
Yeah,
we still have dinosaurs running the government.
Okay.
Oh, nice one, Dad. Good.
So I don't, so I know their bones are here, or so
sure.
But there was some level of climate change there, and I like to. Here in Sarasota, we recently had two storms that brushed by us. One was Debbie. And Debbie was a much different storm. It dropped 18 inches within 72 hours, a lot of inland flooding. Then we just had Helene that brushed by us by about 100 miles off the coast and completely flooded Siesta Key. I'm about 2 miles inland, and I had a Thursday afternoon rainstorm. Like it was, we might have had a gust of wind, 30, 40, maybe even 50 miles an hour. I don't know. Maybe 2 inches of rain. And we get those on the regular here in Florida, just passing, just a normal thunderstorm that comes across the state. So, but this storm was devastating up and down the west coast of Florida due to storm surge. And so there's no question that, these storms exist, they're bad. They seem to be more prevalent, but I also know a little bit.
China and India.
Well, I know that in 1960, another storm came by Sarasota and caused a lot of inland flooding. It rained about 18 inches over 72 hours, and it flooded in the same places it flooded this year. But there weren't quite as many houses in that flood-prone area. So I think there's two things. One is people are living and building in these areas. Number two, it's kind of like our medical care where, a new device is created every 72 days where it used to take 50 years. And so we have these devices that measure. You talked about changing it to Hurricane 6. There wasn't a way to measure a Hurricane 6 in the past. So does that mean that hurricanes are stronger, or is it because our technology has gotten better where we can predict these things better, measure them better, and see the impacts of them sooner? So, one of the most devastating storms in Florida history was 1848. Tampa Bay took a direct hit. So I don't know that, when we say, these storms are getting worse, are they, or are they getting more prevalent? Are they? But they're not getting that much worse. We've had these storms throughout recorded history. So, but is climate changing? Yes, I'll agree that the climate has been in constant change. And To the extent that humans can control that, we should try not to pollute our environment or melt the glaciers in Iceland.
All right, interesting. Mom and Dad, do you believe climate change is a part of why these storms are getting worse and more frequent?
No, we don't. And well, at least I don't.
Speak for yourself. Go ahead.
And I also believe that any climate change we have in the world is caused by China and India.
Okay.
We have nothing to do with it. In fact, we probably reduced our footprint.
Okay. I call it just weather changes.
Yeah.
And I always go because of Dad's, when he retired, you know, he used to do natural gas trading. Mm-hmm. He had to know that weather every day.
Better than the meteorologist, believe me.
We would always watch Joe Bastardi, you know, and you know who Joe Bastardi is, right?
No.
You don't?
He's
the most famous weatherman in the world. And if he's in your hometown, it's not a good day.
Yeah. Once we'd see him on CNN or Newsmax, whatever, we'd go, oh, God, that's going to get hit. What he says, it's called the name change game, whether it is or isn't. The weather is there. Mm-hmm. And Dad and I have always thought it's just weather cycling.
I mean, shit is significantly changing. When you look at wildlife patterns, sharks are coming inland, places they've never come before, from like deep sea to fucking eat. Polar bears are fucking dying off. All you have to do is literally just look at nature around you. Everything is happening.
I think you're touching on something, Haley, that is a much more in-depth discussion than just climate change. I mean, you know, if we're going to talk about I think in this regard, your dad is right. I mean, the Chinese have gotten very good at fishing. Half of their satellites are, I don't know that it's half. They now are using satellites to fish in international waters, and they slay the heck out of them. So, the world is being plundered by
technology.
I look at the Gulf of Mexico. You know, we have oil deposits in the Gulf of Mexico. We try to keep from drilling it. You know, but at some point,
let me
interject.
If the
federal government,
the amount of oil and gas coming out of the Gulf of Mexico is a pimple on an elephant's ass.
Okay.
Let me turn this.
We have cut that down. We have cut that down so much that now a hurricane actually becomes bearish.
All right,
because there's no oil and gas shut off for more than a day or two. And it's less than 2 or 3 BCF a day of total natural gas out of the probably 25 to 30 BCF of gas we produce.
All right, so let me turn this back into politics for a second, Dad.
The Gulf is irrelevant as
whether
far
we
as
agree,
oil and gas is concerned.
Whether we agree or not that climate change is causing these are some facts. Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, and Project 2025 includes about 4 pages about how it wants to get rid of the National Weather Service. The part that it in the Project 2025 was written by Thomas Gilman, who was an official in Trump's Commerce Department. And I know Trump has disavowed Project 2025, but we all know that it was literally written by people that were in his cabinet. And it's kind of the operating manual for the Republican Party moving forward, at least as it's presented now.
That's blatantly false. Blatantly false.
Please.
That's not the Republican Party's platform. That's just not true.
All right. Well, I mean, we disagree on that. We disagree on that, and we'll see.
It's hard to disagree on facts. The fact is, Project 2025 was produced by a think tank called the Heritage Foundation, not the Republican Party and not Donald Trump. Those are facts.
Yeah. But do you think that there are no Republicans in the Heritage Foundation? Who are the people that are going to follow this plan?
They don't represent Donald Trump or the Republican Party.
Thank you.
But they used to represent Donald Trump.
I get that that's a campaign issue and everybody's very excited about it. But if we're going to have an honest and intellectual conversation about it, let's start with honesty, intellectual honesty.
Okay. Yes. Well, let's go down this path then.
Yay.
Project 2025, you wouldn't call it a democratic plan for America moving forward.
I call it irrelevant. It's not relevant. I mean, if you want to discuss parts of it, it's fine. But there's not a major political party or candidate who has endorsed that plan.
And you don't think it's fucking wild that Donald Trump has no policies whatsoever? During the debate, he couldn't say jack shit. It's because Project 2025 is his fucking policy. and he
That's
doesn't
not
want to
true.
out it.
That is
No,
not true.
Haley.
He has
That's not
said
true.
no, and we know that Donald Trump lies.
And he's
you know,
tells the
at
truth
an
all the time.
increased
And
rate.
Kamala Harris doesn't lie a bit.
No, she does too.
Everything that
As
comes
we
out
have-
of her
listen,
mouth is horse shit.
On this
She's a-
very program, you and I, Dad, have both agreed all politicians lie. That's a part
Right.
of the job. You can't ever say what you're really thinking or say any kind of truth because it's going to ostracize some part of your perceived voting bloc. Where is she going?
Kitty's having a really bad day. I apologize to all my 5 listeners out there.
All right, let's just move on.
I'm coming back.
This is usually how this show goes, Jamie. We have some kind of heated
I'll
debate.
be honest,
and
I
then...
love it. This show looks like my desk, so it's perfect.
And wait a second,
All
I'm
right.
back, and you didn't let me in my ditty.
Sorry, go ahead. My mom has
Yeah,
ditties
you forgot my
sometimes, which are
ditty.
rants.
I always get a ditty
Please.
or a rant.
All right,
Here's
let's
my
hear it.
ditty. I'll do it real quick. It's not
Please.
very long. Sometimes I have them that go on and on. This is short.
Yeah.
Court Space this week. She said this week in an interview, it was her first solo sit down with MSNBC host Stephanie Rue, I think.
Mhm.
Gone is the day of everyone thinking they could actually live the American dream. That's
Mhm.
what she said. My God.
Trump says
That's
stuff like that all the
because-
time.
That's because she's a communist.
Trump constantly says how America's bad. We're falling down the shithole.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. World War III is coming. Armageddon is upon us.
Continue, Chad.
And why?
So, but
can't
no, but what
we-
I'm asking is,
Why
why
can't
do
we
you
li-
care if she's saying it when Trump has literally
Because-
built two
Okay.
campaigns around it?
I can't wait for you all to invite me for Thanksgiving. This is going to be awesome.
You know why? You know why I'm upset that she said that? Because she's
Yeah.
been in control with Biden the last 3.5 years. And if our American dream is so bad, help us out. Change it. What is
No,
she
look,
doing?
you guys talk out of both sides of your mouth about this. JD Vance doesn't matter because he's just a vice
No,
presidential
Obama's
candidate.
been running
Kamala
the
Harris
country for
has all
12
the
years.
control in the world as vice president. Which one is it?
Obama has been running the show for 12 years. And look
Okay.
at the mess we're in.
I just think
All right.
that's sad that she would state that. Look at Haley. She has her own business. What do you
Yeah.
think of that? Do you have-
Kamala Harris isn't going to run the country no matter if she wins or not.
Haley, do you
That's probably
believe
the best
there is
argument
an
I've heard to
American
vote
dream?
for.
No,
Haley,
because the bad news is you want Obama to keep going for another 4 years.
Haley, do you
Yes,
believe
what?
in the American dream?
He's the problem.
Do you believe
The
in
American dream.
You don't like the American dream? Move to Iceland.
Bob?
If I had enough money to pack my shit up and move tomorrow, I would, but I don't.
Where?
I told
Where are
you.
you going
Scotland.
to move?
I
told
would go
you-
to Scotland.
I told,
You changed from Iceland now?
I would open a little
Okay.
cafe in Edinburgh. Yeah, that's what I would do. Do I believe in the American dream?
yeah, answer it. Don't be like Kamala.
So when I opened my bakery,
Don't do a circle.
everything kind of seemed possible.
Okay. How many years ago was that?
So I am living my
6,
American
7.
dream.
Right.
Yeah, I started it, I don't know, maybe 7, almost 8 years ago. That's when the wheels were in motion.
That's before Obama
So-
got a hold of it.
I
Yes,
was
that's-
able, well, Conrad and I also have built this over the course of what, fucking 2 decades, 25 years. So, I mean, we built a life to get to
But-
where we are today. So
But
at
when
that
you
time,
opened,
yeah,
when you opened it and had to get your loans and all of that, you could still get the American dream.
this
What
is
she's
all
saying, it's no
relevant.
longer good.
This is all relevant.
Okay.
So when we were young, we were able to fucking buy a house pretty easily on dual income. We were
Yes.
able to have children and afford everything. So
Okay.
at that time, when we started our lives, the American
You already
dream was
had all
still
3 of your children before that.
the American dream was still something that was feasible. Now, I do look at the world differently today for my own children, who are most likely all going to be college educated. They will all hopefully get jobs out of college. I do question whether or not they would be able to buy a home, start a family, and afford the fucking lives that they want. So I don't
you
know
ought
if the
to vote
American
for
dream.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I don't know if the American dream exists anymore for just like a normal fucking person living in our country today.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Moving on. Chad,
All right.
take it.
We have a kind of small topic here, but it was one that I found interesting this week. This week, while campaigning in Pennsylvania, Trump stopped at a grocery store in Kittening, Pennsylvania, called Sprankles, where he handed a shopper $100 bill and
Yeah,
said,
can I ask a quick question?
"Sure."
Do we have a phone-in guy today this week?
No, we have a real guy on the Zoom with us this week.
The guest is better, but
I'm gonna take that quote. I'm a real guy.
Yeah, we have a real life.
I assume
person.
No,
So
we usually open the show with like a question from a listener, but I didn't do it today because I wanted to have a little 10-minute segment where we talk to you, get to know you a little bit. So let me continue on.
Don't interrupt him,
Trump
please.
Visited this grocery store. He hands this woman a $100 bill and he said, here, it's going to go down a little bit. Just went down $100. We'll do that for you from the White House. The internet then exploded with both praise for what some saw as Trump's kind gesture to a mother of three who was buying groceries, as well as demands for him to be indicted for campaign finance violations. Paying citizens for their votes is illegal for anyone running for public office in America, but giving tips, charitable donations, etc., is not illegal. Haley, do you think what Trump did? You saw this video?
I didn't watch the video, no.
Okay. But he's just in a grocery store and he hands this woman a $100 bill and says, your groceries are going to be $100 cheaper. Do you think what he did was illegal?
You said it's illegal to...
My God.
You basically bribe people
you can't
to vote
buy
for
people's,
them?
Yeah, you can't say I'll give you $100 if you vote for me.
Illegal.
But you can give like people tips. You
from
could
the White House.
Yeah.
I mean,
he merged into it a little bit.
So yes, yeah.
You think it's illegal?
He was skirting around it, but he was paying for a vote.
Oh my God!
All right.
You have got.
Wait, Jamie.
My question would be, and I did not see the clip. We've been preparing for. I helped 5 people who were here on vacation evacuate Siesta Key, so my house has been full. So I haven't paid as much attention to the news, but I'm going to take your version of the facts and assume they're facts, right?
Okay.
And I'm not questioning that or anything like that. My question is, like, if we're going to say carte blanche, is it illegal? Mm-hmm. He would have to know first that, number one, that person is a registered voter. Mm-hmm. Number 2, that person is already not voting for him or has decided not to vote. To then even assume that it could become illegal. I mean, I think we kind of all see that for the campaign. Like, if you love Donald Trump, you love Donald Trump's rhetoric and his flamboyance and all, giving $100 to somebody and saying their groceries are $100 cheaper. If you hate Donald Trump, it's illegal, right? So the truth of the matter is, it was a campaign thing that he was doing, and does it cross the line? I would say probably not, but because I don't know that the malice prior to, if he just ran into somebody in the grocery store. Now, if they were wearing a Harris button, he's like, hey, I'm giving you $100 to take that button off and vote for me. That's a different thing. But I think this sounds like a campaign, along the lines of campaign rhetoric or stunt or whatever you want to call it.
I think so too. This woman has come out and essentially said she's going to frame the bill, and it was a great moment for her, et cetera, et cetera. What'd you say, Dad? Sorry?
Are you growing your hair out?
Your hair. I don't know what he's
saying. Your hair on your head.
I mean, my head is basically shaved. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's getting thicker.
Okay, what I did read about that, the lady. Oh my God.
I think it's climate change.
Thanks for the compliment. I haven't been told that I had thickening hair in a long time.
Yeah, you've turned into a real hippie, it looks like. I can tell you that.
Okay.
Exactly. Mom and Dad, do you think this violated any kind of laws?
Can I
What, you growing your hair or the $100?
The $100. Jesus.
You're trying to be so funny today.
No, the $100 is not a campaign violation.
I say no. I didn't see it, but I read
Donald
about
Trump in jail. I just want him in jail.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
I want him where he belongs.
Well, his sentencing got pushed back. I don't know if you guys saw that.
We want him where he belongs to, in the White House.
Oh, snap served. Shots fired.
What I read about that, I didn't.
Jamie's invited back any day of the week.
I did not see it on TV or whatever, but I did read about it. And what the woman said, what she's going to do with the $100 bill, she's going to frame it.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
There you
go. All right. Well, that was a short one and a fun one. Usually in the middle of the show, we have a thing called a simmer down, where we all kind of talk about something that is not political. But I thought, since you're here, maybe it'd be fun to talk about one that is political. This is not a conversation. It's just going to be a quick rapid fire. Each of you give me an answer. We'll start with Haley.
Boiling up.
Yeah, exactly. If you could go back in time and alter the outcome of one U.S. political event, what would it be? Haley.
I don't fucking know. Can we kill Hitler as a baby? Is that a political event?
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, it's not a U.S. political event. I guess tangentially it would be, since we wound up getting into war
Take him out.
based on Hitler's activities.
Oh,
okay.
I'm surprised with that answer from you. I don't even want to bring up the word. I thought it would be something about, the word that Dad was last week was not good.
What?
I thought you would bring up Roe versus Wade.
Oh,
something like that, but you didn't. Let's forget about
that.
All
right, so Haley has gone outside of the United States.
Yeah. Genocide is not.
Mine would be election of last election. That would be mine.
The last election, you'd put Trump in the White House?
Yes, he should be there now, and our country would be so much better. We would not have illegal aliens running the streets, killing people.
Okay, we got
running these streets.
You put Trump in the White House. Trump wins 2020. That's your answer, Dad?
Mine is to reverse the vote that John McCain made.
Oh God!
To
save Obamacare.
Okay.
Okay. You want Obamacare dead?
Either.
All right. Jamie, how about you?
To me, this one's easy. It's slavery.
Oh.
Served. None of you
never
said
thought
that.
About that one.
None of you said that.
That's a good one.
All right. Let's move on to our third topic.
Well, you didn't fucking answer.
Oh, me?
Me?
Yes, you didn't answer.
Yes, Chad.
Oh.
I would probably go back and stop the bullet from exploding JFK's head. I think America would be in a much more interesting place had he lived and gotten to finish out his term. I just think it would be a much different version of America now.
It would have been changing. It would have changed. Yeah.
A lot.
Okay.
And who did the bullet? We really don't know.
I choose slavery because it's something that was something that was here at our founding and was blatantly against our founding principles.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I totally
agree. That's a good one. I think he got the blue ribbon. That was a good one.
You got my mom's blue ribbon for the simmer down question.
I was hoping
very competitive.
Yeah, we'll send you the award in the mail a little bit later. Okay, our third topic is the stock market. It just hit an all-time high. This week saw the Dow Jones hit an all-time high of 42,628.32 cents. It was the 30th all-time record close this year. The S&P 500 also hit an all-time high this week, indicating that the recession might very well be coming to a close. In 2019, Trump warned America that if Biden were to become president in 2020, we would see another Great Depression. And he warns us of a similar economic collapse if Harris wins now.
Meanwhile, so what's that tell you?
Meanwhile, the stock market for the Trump media and tech group has dropped from a value of $79.38 to $13.98 this week, as the two co-founders, Andrew Latinsky and Wesley Moss, sold all their shares in the company at the first legal opportunity to do so, even though Trump has said he's never going to sell, or he said he won't sell, whatever that means, we'll see. So let me ask you this, Dad, let me start with you. Do you think the stock market hitting record highs is indicative of an economic disaster?
It's a proof that the market believes Donald Trump's going to win.
Okay.
It's on an upswing.
Because if they thought Kamala Harris was going to win, it'd be going in the tank already.
All right. Jamie, do you agree with that?
I think that's certainly an interesting way to look at it. I'm not saying that to be disagreeable.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't use the word interesting because I always follow that up with, and I don't mean it in this case, but I always follow that up with as much Southern charm as I can conjure up and say, well, when Mama said you can't say something nice, call it interesting.
Right.
Mama said
if you can't say something nice, call it interesting. So, but no, I don't disagree with that. But I also, I think that the stock market has a mind of its own, right? And so I thought that Donald Trump, in even 2015 and 16 when he was running, 2020 when he was running, kind of putting this marker down as the stock market is the end all be all for as an economic indicator was not intellectually honest with the American people. And I think most people agree that it's not. There is some level of stock manipulation that can happen in short terms, as we all know. People can buy and inflate stocks to make it look better than it appears. I mean, I I have written in the past on my Substack, which is Reasonable Arguments, that, if there's an economic philosophy called the ROM rule that's named after a guy that kind of, because we don't say that we're in a recession until after 2 quarters of being in a recession, right?
Sure.
So we all kind of have known we're kind of living through this economic downturn, regardless of what the stock market is doing. And if we follow the ROM rule, we probably entered a recession in late July, and that was before they downgraded the Department of Labor, downgraded job creation by 800,000 jobs over the last non-farm jobs over the last year. So in all likelihood, we're in a recession right now. We won't know that until after the election, because we have to have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. So is the stock market going up I don't think is ever a bad thing. I just don't think it's an indicator of what American families are feeling at the grocery store or the gas pump, or
sure.
Wage losses. We know that over this administration that wages have not kept up with inflation, not even close. And so I think that the regular person out there who's living mostly paycheck to paycheck, even Haley mentioned her children, her children's future. Those folks who are maybe in college graduates in their 20s. My children are in their early 30s, and they always, through their 20s, are like, "Gosh, I'm so poor." I was like, "Yeah, in your 20s, you're always in a recession, right? Like you're kind of always in a recession, because you're either just out of college, you're paying loans, you're starting your job, you're starting your career, you're starting your life, and you have all these extra expenses that most people in their 40s or 50s don't have. Like, you're starting your family. So you have those startup costs, and people don't really look at it that way. But I don't think the stock market is an indicator of who will win or lose the election. I don't think that it's an indicator really of the strength of the overall economy. It's the stock market's the stock market.
Okay.
But I'm not a stock advisor, I'm just the guy who has a 401k. So,
Sure. Dad, you got a question?
Yeah, I got a question. And it's for whoever wants to answer it. If you don't think the stock market is an indicator, the fact that it's at record highs means it doesn't have to go very far below to deliver you a recession. And I'm going to predict right now that if Kamala Harris wins, you're going to see the stock market in the high 20s, low 30s within a year.
Okay, so you believe Trump's predictions about another Great Depression if Kamala Harris wins?
Absolutely, 100%.
Even though he made the same predictions about Biden, and we are clearly not in a Great Depression, maybe a recession.
We're on the fucking verge.
Well, let me ask this broader question about. There's this idea with Trump, and he has run on this as part of his platform. Many of his voters believe this to be true, that he is a very savvy business person, potentially a business genius, as he's positioned himself a few times. But I just want to go through some of the stuff that he has done in terms of his business life, and then ask you why you believe this about him. So the Trump Taj Mahal, these are businesses that tanked that he did. The Trump Taj Mahal in 91, Trump Plaza Hotel in 1992, Trump Hotels and Casinos Resorts in 2004, Trump Entertainment Resorts in 2009. He has a bunch of other failed businesses as well. Those are ones that went bankrupt. These other ones that I'm now going to read through are ones that just shut down almost immediately. Trump Shuttle Inc., launched by Trump in 89, defaulted on its loans in 1990, and ceased to exist by 1992. Trump University, founded by Trump in 2005, ceased operations in 2011 amid lawsuits and investigations regarding the company's business practices. Trump Vodka, produced drinks by Drink Americas under the license from Trump Organization, introduced in 2005, discontinued in 2011. Trump Mortgage, LLC, GoTrump.com.
I'm going to
Trump
go ahead
Steaks.
and give you that he has a whole bunch of
Trump Steaks at Radio
businesses
Shack
that went bankrupt. That you show me a billionaire in the world that hasn't had his ass kicked, and I'll show you the truth.
But he's not any billionaire in the world who's had his ass kicked. He's trying to be the president of the United States, and he's running to some degree on a platform that he will be able to deliver economic perfection.
He survived every one of those, and he's still a billionaire.
I just wish Harris had a list of successes or failures anywhere near as long.
Sure.
Any list.
I don't know that she's capable of being commander in chief. There's really not a whole lot to prove me right or wrong because she's not accomplished anything. Her one job as border czar, there's 300,000 lost. She lost 300,000 children.
I brought that up. They don't believe me. They don't believe me.
Unaccompanied children.
Yes.
300,000. The population of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the population of North Las Vegas are in our country and lost.
Where are they?
Due to the border czar's failure.
And why doesn't she ever wear a dress?
Oh my God. She wants to look like
what?
a man.
Why does Kamala Harris never wear a dress?
Because
she doesn't want to? What's the fucking matter? What are you talking about?
Because she doesn't want anybody to think she's a woman.
Oh my! No, she has to put all the protective.
My brain is melting. What are you talking about?
Takes a shot.
She won't wear a dress because she wants everybody to think that underneath all the facade, she's really a tough man.
Okay, I don't understand that. Yeah, the 300,000 children lost. I have been on that forever.
No dress.
Chad and Haley kind of like, oh, that can't.
Well, that's the department. That's from a memo that the Department of Homeland Security put out. So there's no denying those facts.
Yes.
And the Department of Homeland Security says that those children are likely either dead, enslaved, or being sex trafficked.
I'm not disputing that there are horrible mistakes made by the current administration, but once you start like getting into the,
she's not part of that.
Well, she's the vice president. Is JD Vance a part of it?
No,
we're going to get to in one moment.
Not right now.
JD's my man.
The difference is the difference is that they made a huge deal for over a year that she was the border czar and that she was going to protect the border and stop illegal immigration. Number one, it was all a lie. Number two, if it wasn't a lie, it was a complete failure. Sure. So which one was it? Were we lied to or did she fail?
I think both. And honestly,
she just went to the border 2 days ago down in Arizona and the border, and now she's making an appearance.
I mean, you can say the same shit about Donald Trump. For the longest time, he was going to protect women's rights. He was going to protect our right to abortion. He was going to protect the LGBTQ community, and he's a fucking liar because he did the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into like people, owning up to what they promised, what they're supposed to do. He's a fucking liar as well.
What did he do? It was a lie.
He touts overturning Roe v. Wade daily. It's like his part of his campaign.
He didn't do that. The Supreme Court did.
Well, he would lead you. Yeah.
But he appointed the 3 Supreme Court justices who
did it.
Doesn't
matter.
Okay.
Those
and he accepts responsibility and tries to take credit for it.
He has also sexually assaulted women. So if you want to talk about moral fucking compass, he's a fucking piece of shit.
Okay. That's not
there we go.
We don't. Here's the thing is we've had plenty of pieces of shit who've been president of the United States.
Yes.
So
agreed.
That's not. I understand the anger and the hatred for Donald Trump. But he doesn't hold a candle to somebody like Lyndon Baines Johnson, and who was a horrible human being, and so much so that I hate to say this in mixed company, but he pulled his penis out at a press conference and told a reporter to step up to the mic. I mean, he's a horrible human being.
Jesus.
Whoa, I didn't know that one.
And back before the internet, before social media.
Yeah. Well, while the press still kind of had, I guess, a level of respect for the presidency. But, but I understand Haley's anger and I appreciate your comments, but it's, we're not electing somebody to be class president and to throw a good homecoming dance.
I'm sorry. You are going to vote for a man.
Of the United States.
You're going to vote for a man that rapes women. That's where 100%. I kind of draw the line.
Well, I don't know that he did that.
I don't either.
Right.
I don't either.
Yeah. Well, a whole jury decided that he did.
Yeah.
Well, and I look at some of the juries that were sat and how politically motivated prosecutors have been, how politically motivated juries have been. And so, we're looking at somebody who was impeached twice politically, not for anything that he did. The first impeachment was complete bullshit.
Yes.
If we're going to be complete bullshit, that's been proven as complete bullshit.
Yep.
And the second one was just like, hey, we're going to kick the guy on the ass as he's leaving. So there's no question that Donald Trump.
So you also just deny factual information because he was there with a jury that was chosen, and that was the outcome. So you just want to deny factual information.
No, we also know that in the appeals process that this thing has been put on ice, right? If we're talking about the Jack Smith case, we know that that was politically motivated. We know that no one else would have been prosecuted under those terms. And so no, this is Democrats using the judicial system, much like they've used the Department of Justice, much like they're using the Department of Justice against the Democrat New York City mayor. Do you think for a second he gets indicted if he didn't come out against Biden and Kamala Harris's immigration policy? No, he does not get indicted. But he came up against the administration, and they're showing everyone else, you will get in line, you will not speak out against us, or you will get indicted. And so these are all political indictments.
Yeah.
And do you think Trump wouldn't do the same thing? He said he wants to be a dictator.
I don't know. He was there 4 years and he didn't do it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
So
if that's
what I hear
correct.
is you denied in the beginning that you're MAGA, but I do believe that you are Majah because you are really quick to. I don't believe that. He didn't do that. You sound just like my parents. So I'm kind of thinking that you're Majah.
Yeah, anybody that sounds like us is MAGA.
All right, we have only a few minutes.
The truth of the matter is we're discussing. There's two people running for president.
Yeah.
My guess is if I were to ask you and you want to be intellectually honest, I was intellectually honest at the beginning and said, hey, listen, I was in the minority in my party. I would have thought that I was in the minority with J.D. Vance. I thought he should have picked Nikki Haley as the vice president. I thought that Nikki Haley kind of softened our party a little bit, moved our party a little bit more towards the middle. And that's why I call my blog Reasonable Arguments, right? So, but our choices are these. They're somebody who did go through a process and got elected, and there was somebody who did not through any type of process. And so, my guess is that if you had a choice of 4 or 5 people to run for president from the Democrat Party, I'm not sure that Harris would be your choice or that you would be defending her so much, but she's the choice you have, so she's the choice you cling to, right? Trump is the choice I have, so he's the choice I'm going with. And so,
real quick,
I don't defend Kamala Harris. I don't like her. That's the difference. It feels as though your approach in all of this, like in defending Donald Trump for his atrocities, you like him. I don't like Kamala Harris, clearly, and I don't defend her shit.
I never tried to claim that Donald Trump's a good human being. In fact, when you called him an ass, I think was the quote. I said, we've had plenty of asses who've been president of the United States, right?
Piece of shit, yes.
So, okay, whatever. Thank you for clarifying.
For the quick fact check.
I would never want to put words in your mouth, Haley. That's one thing that's for sure.
All right, listen, we have only a few minutes left. I want to get to this last topic.
To say one
God
more
damn it.
thing.
All
I have
right.
to say one more thing. I will never forgive Biden for on the very first day by executive order, he opened our border.
Yeah.
From that point on, our country is bad. And she was the czar. She was supposed to keep everything in line. She's done nothing. People are being murdered by illegals. And Chad and Haley don't believe that. They just
of course I believe it. What are you talking about?
Every day, but
and the children,
what are we doing about that?
Children? Where are the children?
I don't think any of this shit is going well. I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't like the Democratic Party. I don't like Trump.
Vote?
I don't like the Republican Party. Huh?
Yeah. Why would you vote for her
because you get 2 choices in this country.
If you don't like either one,
you got to pick a team in the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, the guy who owns the NFL still wins either way.
Shit, you don't have to pick a team. You can sit on your fat ass there in your apartment.
In this very show, you have screamed in my face saying, you gotta pick a fucking team. You have literally said that.
But you can't do it.
He picked the wrong.
I am picking Kamala Harris. I'm voting for Kamala Harris. Not because I want to, because I have been given 2 choices.
Jamie, just so you know the background, he gave me a birthday present.
It was a Trump
that he
vote.
was going to vote for Donald Trump no matter what. I let him out of it because I knew he couldn't do it.
You made a bad bet. You were the one who offered that. All right, look, we have only a few minutes, but I did want to get to this. This week, we're going to see a vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz.
God.
Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff brewing behind them. We've got Tim Walz as the guy who called all Republicans weird, and that became kind of the rallying cry for the Democratic Party for a little while online, et cetera, et cetera. You've got J.D. Vance attacking Walz's military career, saying that it was stolen valor. The debate is this Tuesday.
And it was.
At 9 p.m. It's 90 minutes long. CBS is hosting it in New York. The microphones are going to be left on for the duration of the debate unless they get unruly, I guess, and then they're reserving the right to cut them off.
Because you know what? That first debate, Trump had to bow down to every one of her wishes and wants, that he couldn't talk about her, this. He couldn't talk about that. That's why.
All right. Are you going to watch this debate, Haley?
Yeah.
Yes.
100%.
Jamie. Will you be watching it?
Why are you laughing?
Was that to me?
Yes. Sorry.
Yes, I will watch it.
Okay.
I don't think there's probably going to be a winner, but there could be a loser.
I agree with that 100%.
So, with everything being so razor thin in these 5 states, any one thing can matter. So in that regard, the vice presidential debate might matter, but probably not.
Yeah. Mom, Dad, you going to watch this thing?
Yes.
All right. Jamie, you already answered some of the questions I was going to ask. I tend to agree with you. I think there will be no winner here. I think the outcome of this is largely immaterial unless somebody does something very bad.
Well,
and then
it also
maybe
the outcome of this is memes.
Yeah.
And I can't wait for it.
It also depends on who gets the questions ahead of time. It depends on if the interview is biased to one side. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying, Haley. As we've talked about on this very program, I think now presidential elections come down to who wins the internet, wins the election. And so whatever memes come out of this, whatever position they kind of take, I think could be the thing.
That's not unusual in our political history, that we used to call them political cartoons and songs.
Sure.
Exactly.
And so whoever ended up with the best political cartoon in the newspapers tended to move public opinion. So the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Exactly. Well, perhaps we will talk about this next week if anything important comes out of it.
And Chad, there's one more thing we never got to, and I know, save it for next week, but that UN, they just adopted that pact. What the hell? Did you guys not see this?
I didn't see it.
Oh, my God.
Oh, it's the thing you sent to me. Sorry, I didn't read it.
Yeah,
I was putting all this other stuff together.
Week.
We'll talk about it next week, the UN. We should have gotten to the UN. I know that's a hot button issue. But Jamie, thank you so much for being our first guest. This has been absolutely fantastic.
I'm truly honored. What a blessing to be be with all of you.
Well, the blessings
it really
continue
is.
because
I do feel blessed. Thank you.
At the very end of this show, we do something that we started the show a couple of years ago at this point because Haley and myself weren't really talking to my mom and dad because of political discord within the family. It was probably somewhere between Obama and Trump coming in, or maybe it was during Obama. We kind of just stopped communication. And so I wanted to start this podcast to force us to talk to each other for an hour every week. And at the end of it, despite all of our political differences, we always tell each other that we love each other. So Haley, I love you. Mom, I love you. Dad, I love you. Jamie, I love you. Thank you for coming on our podcast.
Thank you for having me as your first guest. I love you all too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I feel like part of the family. It's in our family we chose to do not a podcast but a Zoom call about fantasy football. So kudos for you all for charging right in and talking about the tough things with each other.
Our pleasure. Mom, Dad, Haley, you have something to say?
Yeah, Mom, I love you. Dad, I love you. Chad, I love you. Uncle Jamie, I love you.
Chad and Haley, I love you. Bob, I love you. And Jamie, this has been fun. You're welcome back anytime.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm happy to do it.
I love Chad. I love Haley. I love Mary Lou. I love Jamie. Now that Jamie's in our fold.
Yes.
There's touch and go there at the beginning.
If you have nowhere to go at Thanksgiving, you can come to our house.
Yeah.
If you want to drive to Oklahoma.
You can drive to Oklahoma or you can fly.
Or Hurricane Ian.
On a Boeing 747, which I don't think you want to do.
And Haley will bring tofu.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We will see you next week.